Well, a number of Canadian cities have higher levels of lead, get this, higher levels of lead in their drinking water than Flint, Michigan at the height of its crisis. A year-long investigation, which included more than 120 journalists from 9 universities, 10 media groups, has uncovered the danger, leaving many Canadians wondering if they can trust what comes out of their taps. Now, with more, we're joined by RT's Alex Mihailovich in Toronto. Alex, great to see you. Tell us more about this study, which is really quite shocking.
Well, Steve, when you think about lead in drinking water, you kind of automatically think of Flint, Michigan. But this investigation takes us north of the border to a country that prides itself on its clean water. That would be Canada. Now, there's a group that investigated this. Obviously, a lot of people involved in this. They're researching thousands of documents that were previously undisclosed. And they tested water in hundreds of homes across Canada, including 11 major cities. It turns out hundreds of thousands of Canadians are consuming tap water that has dangerous levels of lead in it. Now, take a look at this. Here's some of the cities. Montreal, which is obviously a huge city. Gatineau, which is close to Montreal. Saskatoon, Regina, Moose Jaw in the west, and Prince Rupert. So they were all found to have levels comparable, I should say, or higher than Flint, Michigan at the height of the issue, which was back in 2015. Now, in fact, 12,000 tests from 2014 found that 33% of the national safety, all the homes exceeded national safety guidelines when it came to lead. Now, just to put this into perspective, in Canada, we're talking about 5 parts per billion. In the States, it would be 15 parts per billion. That's a national guideline in the States. But even with that guideline, 18% of houses that were tested would fail here in Canada. Now, some of the highest levels, and this is a shocker, are found in schools and daycares. And as we know, when it comes to lead poisoning, children are the most susceptible to this and the most in danger of being poisoned by lead and other health effects that come from that.
Let me ask you, Alex, what has the Canadian government been doing about this? Is this all new to them, or have they known? What's going on with fixing the problem?
Good question, Steve. It looks like they've done little to nothing. I mean, we do have a guideline, like I just mentioned. There's a lot of talk about it, but there is really nothing that the government does about this. So although they have recommendations, which are federal recommendations about how much lead is allowed in water, really the agencies that test the waters when it comes down to it, which aren't necessarily tied to the federal government, don't even have to tell residents. They don't have to disclose the fact that their levels of lead in their water is higher than it should be. So just last month, the province of Quebec, which is the French-speaking province in Canada, they were talking about this. They were saying, a lot of our infrastructure might need changing, but hey, don't worry, anybody. Your drinking water was safe. Well, we just found out Montreal is one of those main cities, as well as Gatineau, both in Quebec, that the drinking water is not safe. So break that all down. This situation paints a very different picture than what people are being told. And as it sits right now, we don't know what the government's going to do. All we know is that some infrastructure is crumbling, and it could potentially cause people to be very sick.
In this day and age, Alex, it's amazing. But thank you for the report. Keep us updated, please.
Thank you.
It's hard to clear through the debris and get right down to the nitty-gritty that is real news.
New details are coming to light in the case of Jeffrey Epstein as more
spread between the 2-year Treasury yield and the 10-year Treasury yield.
Several hundred students are staging a sit-in.
The Amazon rainforest, and the blame game is underway. It's time for RT America. So go ahead and hit that subscribe button.